Getting back to the recording. Hello and welcome. So, drum roll, please. Tonight, I'm going to be discussing the liminal space. Partly because it randomly came up on Dismembering Tarot. I was there, but not there. It's like everyone could hear me, and I could see myself on the chat, but no one else could see me. And I think it was Andy said, she's walking the veil or cross the veil or something. And I'm it's like to the point where Val kind of messaged me and said, "Are you there?" Which is really funny. And then there was a post from Alexander Quinn that talked about the liminal space. And I'm like, okay, there we go. There's my second cue from the universe to talk about the liminal space. So, and I'm going to talk. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is and how we walk it. Why would we even do that? Yeah, and when's the best time? But I'm going to take this in a slightly obtuse direction. Yeah, because I'm going to come at it from the tarot card that we were studying the other day, the Emperor. So I'm going to be in full Emperor mode. Not really. But I am going to kind of incorporate that energy because really, when you think about it, what the Emperor embodies is, I would say, is being in the liminal space. And this will become clear as I carry on waffling. Okay, so the liminal space, what is it? What some people might not have even heard of the word liminal. Okay, and I get that. It's not a word that most people have in their daily language. So I understand that completely. So the liminal space. So for example, the liminal space, if you were walking along the seashore, yeah, the liminal space there would be the space between the water and the sand or the earth. Yeah. So where those two elementals kind of cross over, that's a liminal space. So it's neither one or the other, it's both, but it's quite magical in the kind of energy. And yeah, when you go paddling on the shore, there's an energy there, isn't there? 100%. And in fact, as kids, we would usually play as the waves broke on the shore. We'd kind of, pardon me, we'd kind of run and then go back. And it's very playful, you could even say. Other examples of liminal spaces, when you get fog, yeah. So when we were walking the marshes every day, there were a couple of times that we experienced this very visceral feeling of that liminal space. Yeah. So one time it was thick fog. So you could only really see about maybe 5 foot in front of you. Yeah. So it was thick, dense fog. And it felt like you were walking on the edge of a cliff because you couldn't see around you. Yeah. And it was really magical. But the other time, which was even could be more magical, was when we were walking the marshes at spring tide, and the whole marshes was flooded because obviously the water had risen to a point where the river was no longer the river. It was just the whole marshes was water. And I was a bit concerned because I'm like, shit, are we going to get so flooded here that we're going to have to swim? That's how my brain works, unfortunately. But what was really interesting, so when we got to the part where we walk along by the River Thames, because that's where we are, the marshes, it's a saltwater marshes, which then goes into a freshwater marshes. So the bit where we walk along by the banks of the River Thames, the water was so high, it was literally no less than a foot away from us. And it was so quiet. Bearing in mind that at the time, you had like, there's a big rubbish thing over the other side of the river where they dump rubbish and do whatever it is they do with rubbish. It's very noisy, loads of stinky, smoky smells, and all that kind of. We call it Mordor because it has the energy of Mordor. And yes, I'm doing that deliberately because I like the word Mordor. Very liminal space, in fact. um, so yeah, on this particular day, it was really quiet, and you could feel that energy of like you're walking on the edge of the world. It was quite phenomenal. So that is also the liminal space. You get it in woods quite a lot. And you could even say, yeah. So if you get it in a woods, you might find that that is the dwelling place of the Fae, because their existence is kind of between worlds. So they are liminal in their nature, as are most magical creatures. Even the elementals, you could say, are of the liminal space. Yeah, spaces, plural. So it's a very magical energy, a very magical space in time. But you also find it through the wheel of the year. So I will explain. So there are particular times during the wheel of the year where the veil is thin. So what I'm talking about here is that the veil itself, and what's beyond it is that liminal space. And I'll talk in a minute about deities that can help you move through that liminal space. Let me just write that down. Deities, otherwise I will forget to talk about that. um, so the solstices are two big ones, yeah. So you've got the summer solstice, winter solstice. Um, why are they liminal spaces? Because that's a period of time where there's either there's a going in to the underworld or coming out of the underworld. So technically, on the summer solstice, the god actually goes down into the underworld, yeah, because the dark is returning, yeah. Whereas in the winter solstice, the light is returning and the god is reborn, yeah. The sun is reborn, yeah. Other liminal spaces, I would say, for me personally, Beltane is definitely one of those, as is Samhain. Samhain, which after the equinox is probably next to Imbolc, one of my favourites, aside from Yule, and in fact all of them. Let's not discriminate. But Samhain is the time when we go down into the underworld. Yeah, that's the opening of that particular door. So the liminal space, you could say, is a thinning of the veil as well. Yeah. So as well as being a magical energy space where two elementals kind of converge, so it's a bit like a crossroads as well. Crossroads are highly magical places. Yeah, that's why Hecate, that's the goddess that I know that resides at Crossroads. That's why she's there, because it's choices, isn't it? And that in itself is a liminal space when you are about to make a choice, because what you're doing is you're affecting which direction you are going in and then where you're going to. Yeah, that's liminal as well. Yeah. So it's a very magical space in time. It's a very changeable. So from that liminal space, everything's on the table. Yeah, all possibilities are on the table. You could even say it's like a void space almost. Yeah, because from that space, especially if you're talking about it from a choice, making a choice, you're then projecting whatever it is, um, going down that road that you are going to be experiencing. Yeah, that's pure voidianism. Yeah. So it's a very magical space. And that's just, the top layer of that. Now, in that space, what you will also find, and that's what we had on the marshes at spring tide, and also when we experienced the fog, yeah, that very dense fog, the silence, the stillness, and it evokes that in you, but it also shows you that silence, stillness, that inner power of our mother, nature. Yeah, it is quite phenomenal. So that's where the emperor energy comes in here, because when the emperor is in balance, there's that silence, that stillness, that coming from a place of balance. Yeah. Um, you could even say, yeah, you could even say that there's a kind of security in that. Because essentially that's where we come from. We come from nothing, which is the void, yeah? And, when we, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it, but when we experience manifesting ourselves into this domain, yeah, that's coming from nothing into something. So that this idea of almost that liminal space when you are experiencing it, it's like an echo of the void, yeah? So for me, I love swimming about in the void. It's amazing. That silence, that stillness, you can just fall back and that's it. Yeah, done. I love it. So, that's the what, yeah? What is the liminal space? Um, how? How do we walk the liminal space? Yeah. Well, I suppose one of the clues there is in, the things that I've spoken about. So, and it's I suppose the first thing is awareness. If you are aware that you are entering or you're experiencing a liminal space, I mean, I would even say what we're experiencing now, it's kind of like a that's the other liminal space. Any kind of waiting room is a liminal space. And yes, they get on your nerves sometimes. Um, but there's a kind of energy at the moment of we know there's something that's on the horizon, yeah? And I know people have been talking about this for years. Oh, something big coming. But no, this is something is happening. You can feel it in your bones, yeah? You know that something is happening. But we don't know what it is yet. We have no clue what it looks like or how it's going to happen, but we know that something is changing. Yeah, that's a liminal space. Yeah. So what we are experiencing at the moment in this domain, dimension, realm, whatever you want to call it, is a liminal space. And I think part of that is, we're moving towards Samhain. Um, pardon me. So even if you are not pagan or a witch or any kind of magic worker, you'd still be feeling that somewhere on some level, I reckon. Yeah. So How do we walk this? The other the other liminal space, I'm getting them coming in thick and fast now. The other liminal space is a meditative state. That is 100% liminal. Even if you are not sitting in meditation, but you're creating, yeah, you're being creative in some way, shape, or form, that is a liminal space. Yeah. Um, so there are different ways that you can walk it. Um, purposefully, yeah, deliberately, consciously. You can walk that liminal space. So whether that's walking along the shore of the sea, yeah, or whether it's walking in the woods and keeping all your senses open to those liminal type experiences, yeah, or it might be what are other examples? Well, I suppose I'm going to go to deity, magic, yeah. So there are different deities that can aid you in walking this liminal space. So I suppose I'm looking out there because I've got an altar out there right outside the door. And Rhiannon is sitting on that altar. So Rhiannon is Queen of the Fae. So she is the, and in fact, in her story, when she is chased by uh, admirers, she disappears. So she disappears back into the liminal space. Um, so she's a really good um, deity to connect with if you want to kind of tread that liminal space. And there are ways you can do that where through meditation, through guided meditation. And in fact, I can share a guided meditation. Let me just write that down. I think I've got one for Rhiannon. I will have a look and I will share the link if I have got one. I'm sure I have. Where you're actually on horseback, which is really cool. Hang on, I didn't write that down properly. Rhiannon. Otherwise, I go guided meditation. What's that? Okay. Other deities. So one of the first goddesses I connected with was Arianrod and Hecate, in fact. Both of them are psychopomps. So a psychopomp leads the dead to the underworld, yeah, leads the soul to the underworld. Um, so they are masters of that space, yeah. So if you want a guide as we move towards Samhain and then down into the underworld, if you want a guide for that journey in the form of a goddess, because goddesses and gods, they're guides essentially. Yeah, that's what they are. Spirit guides, if you want to call them that. They both represent the moon energy. In fact, both of them represent the dark moon energy. But Arianrod also represents the full moon. So the moon, very liminal, very magical. Yeah. Whereas Hecate doesn't represent necessarily the full moon, but the new moon. So the dark and the new moon, Arianrod, the dark moon and the full moon. So there are different ways that you can connect with these deities. And on my Everything is Magic channel, I have different rituals that I've posted there, where you can do that, where you can connect with them, and then you can ask them either through meditation or through petitioning, you know, that kind of thing. And little caveat here: never approach a deity in supplication. Yeah, they are always like a friend. They're equal. Yeah, you are equal to them. You are not. You are not. And I'm going to get quite shirty here. You are not ever to go to them cap in hand, bowing and begging. Don't do that. Yeah. They'll probably kick you up the bum if you do. So there's a couple of goddesses that you can ask to show you the liminal space. Another very interesting goddess to work with is Sekhmet. Sekhmet is when I did some research about her back in 2020, I think it was. After we connected with her in the British Museum, because they have, I think, two or three Sekhmet, the black granite Sekhmet statues in the British Museum. And then I spent, blimey, months. Must have been, yeah, about 6 months, maybe. I don't know. It was a long time connecting with her every day because I bought a statue and I sat it next to me where I would do my work, and then started kind of building that relationship. And then we got right into the alchemical process of, again, liminal space. Yeah. That alchemical process of dissolving our whole selves, being reborn, is a liminal space. I love it. See? Um, but she is, when I was doing the research on her, she is a goddess of ascension. Now, not a lot of people, I don't think there's a lot of people that know that. And what's really interesting is the place where I got that information disappeared. I can't find it anymore. It's not out there. Um, but she's certainly about sovereignty. She's about my art, the truth, yeah, and this journey we're walking of ascension, which again comes back to the emperor energy of um, that stability, that inner sovereignty, the self control, um, competent leadership, yeah, um, and that inner power and that very vital energy, because that's the one thing that Sekhmet does bring, because she brings the healing, but she brings the light warrior as well, and there's a balance there of those two. Yeah, fierce warrior, healer, boom. Yeah, um, which I think a lot of us can relate to right now. Um, so yeah, there are different ways that you can connect. So you can use deity, you can, be out in nature with all your senses alert, for want of a better word, or open to the liminal spaces. And being creative in whatever way, shape, or form you are creative, that is a liminal space. Yeah. And then, of course, you got meditation. That's a really good way to walk it, especially um, if you're not good at sitting in meditation, which, if you're just starting out, then don't expect to be good at that. Believe me, it took me years to be able to sit and not be itching or scratching or have someone touch my hand. Took me a long time to be able to do that. So don't expect to be able to do that straight away. So you can use guided meditations for this purpose. Yeah. Um, either and yeah, you can search YouTube or SoundCloud for anything like that. But I will post some links to these kinds of meditations. Um, so that's some of the ideas around how to walk it. And what I would say is, when you're walking it, especially in the underworld, what you're doing, the whole journey of the underworld is to do with um, I suppose stripping yourself down of all the things that you don't need anymore. Yeah. Um, Metaphysically, and sometimes, you might feel the need to do a spring clean that's earlier than spring. um, but it could also be, about, in fact, it is about like solidifying your learning, your knowledge, all the things that You know, what have you got in your toolbox? Have you got some tools in there that are actually a little bit shit? If you've got some tools in there that don't work for you anymore, or that are a bit blunt, maybe you need to sharpen them up a bit. Yeah. So it's a perfect time to go within, do the inner work, the great work. Yeah. To really galvanize your wisdom. Yeah. So that when it comes to being reborn again, you come out you come out fighting, so to speak. Yeah. You come out ready. Yeah. To do the whole cycle all over again. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun to walk that journey with deity. I really do. Um, yeah. So why? What would be the purpose for walking that particular path? Um, because I don't know, a lot of people get to like September, October, November, and because it's cold, generally where we are, gets cold, it gets windy and damp and rainy, and people walk around with slightly miserable faces sometimes. Um, there's an energy about autumn and the beginning of the winter that um, we feel that. We feel that energy, the energy of endings, yeah, and the energy of, funny enough, I think it's the stillness, especially if you are out early in the morning. You know, it's so quiet and it's dark, yeah, and it's cold, and it's very crispy out there. um, so why would you want to almost compound that by doing this walk into the underworld? Well, I'm a big believer in, if that energy is already knocking about, then don't try and fight it. Yeah, go into it. Use it, because it's something that's already happening. It's happening in nature. It's in this realm. It's you're not getting away from it, really, is there? So use it. Yeah. So by tapping into the energy of this very liminal time of late autumn, early winter, um, I'd say the energy after Yule is slightly different for me. But that lead up, through Samhain, Yule, and then the god is reborn, so to speak. The sun is reborn. Um, it's that's different for me. I don't know if you guys feel that, but it's a different energy, definitely. Um, so my suggestion is that by tapping into it, actually what it does is it gives you permission. Number one, it gives you permission to do that inner work, and not necessarily in a full on kind of hermitage way, but it certainly gives you that time to get cozy. Years ago, I wrote a blog post about how when it was one morning, and it was very crispy outside, very like all the leaves on the ground had thick frost on them, yeah, and it was just, I just love it. There's something about that. It's so magical. And I don't know, when it gets really cold like that, I feel really cozy inside. And people look at me and go, "What?" And it's cold. You can see your breath. It's freezing. I need to put my big socks on. Yeah, put your big socks on. Exactly. There's a coziness about that cold that is just, I don't know, is more liminality, I guess. It's more mirroring or a reflection of the void that we come from, which is why it feels so familiar. But we're not taught any of this stuff, are we? We're not. We're just not. It doesn't. When does that ever come up? in lessons at school. Never. Yeah. But we feel it. But we're told to ignore it or push it down or, well, that doesn't matter or that's a bit woo woo or whatever. Yeah. So that's what we do. We think that, oh, we shouldn't be feeling that because, I should stick a smile on my face and be really happy. No, it's a liminal time. It's a time for going in. It's a time for the inner work. It's a time for reflection. Yeah. There is a reason that we have, I think there's at least two eclipses in September. I don't know if there's more, but there's a reason for that. It's a covering over, yeah. It's a darkening, if you like, you could say, yeah. Um, which kind of says to me, go in, you know, go inside, reflect, be creative, however it is that you tap into that liminal energy, do it, tap into it because it's powerful. Just because we're told to push it aside and it doesn't matter, actually, because we are told to push it aside and it doesn't matter, that's how we know that it's powerful. Yeah, that's how we know. So, the best times, the best times to get into this liminal space. Well, I'd say you could do it any time at all. Because you also have every day you have two liminal times, yeah, dawn and dusk. Very powerful liminal spaces that you can utilize every day. Yeah, okay, I get that. In the summer you might not want to get up at 4:30 in the morning, but that's only one option. You've also got the evening, yeah. So if you want to tap into a liminal space on a regular basis, you can use dawn and dusk or, either one of those two. Very powerful. And you know that. If you've ever seen a sunrise or a sunset, it hits you. Yeah. It absolutely smacks you around the chops and goes, hello. And I think that is, there is in fact, Ian did some artwork around that. I will grab that and I will post that as well because he calls it owl light. I will grab that and I will post that in the group and on YouTube. I'll post that in in the posts section. And it's very, very powerful. That either end of the day, you can think of them like bookends if you like. Very powerful time. And if you want to know the exact time of the sunrise or the sunset, you can always get yourself, there's plenty of apps out there that can tell you that, depending on where you are on the planet. Very powerful times. So you've got it kind of it's like a fractal. So you could even say the beginning and end of a minute, the beginning and end of an hour, the beginning and end of a day, the beginning and end of a month. Yeah. The beginning and end of a year. And we know that, do we not? Because what happens on December the 31st, not that that's our new year, but, there's a big energy, isn't there? A big energy because it's a liminal time of an ending and a beginning. Two spaces in time that are converging. Yeah. Interesting. But if you wanted times in the year, so there are different times in the year. Now, so I've talked about the wheel of the year. So we have the two solstices, summer solstice, winter solstice, big liminal times, yeah, where the veil is really thin. You also have Beltane, Samhain, yeah, big liminal times. There are also, now I think one's in February, where we have, is it February? Oh God, I can't remember. But it's called, um, hang on, let me go and find that out because it's on my calendar. I know it's on my calendar. Bear with me. So, I think it's in February. It's just going to catch up. I couldn't quite catch up with what I was doing there. Oh, my phone is a bit rubbish. Okay, here we go. No, it's not February. It will be in March. No, it must be April then. So we have two actually. In April, middle of April, roughly, we have what's called Rama's Day, which is a thinning of the veil where mirror magic is very powerful. Yeah. This is just a couple of examples. I think it's May, yes. May, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of what they call Lemuria, which is a big thinning of the veil during May. So this is after Beltane, yeah. So it's between Beltane and summer solstice, when we have this thinning of the veil where you can converse with your ancestors. It's a Roman festival, as far as I remember. I think I've done talks on that before, so you can always go and check those out. So there's just two examples, other examples of where the veil is thin and this liminal space becomes more tangible, yeah, and where if you practice any kind of magic, it's more powerful because there's less of a curtain between you and the void, yeah, if you like. Which I really love. I love that. Um, other times, well, if you're doing meditation, obviously that's a good time. Now some do, some say if you do meditation in the same space, at roughly the same time every day, yeah, if you meditate every day, then you create an energy there. Now I know this for a fact. There's a space in our, we call it the solar temple, in our living room. When we used to have gatherings where we do ritual, um, do a bit of sound healing, that type of thing. If anyone sat on that particular spot, they would go right up and you'd have to talk them back down. It was like a funnel of energy that just completely took these people up. Yeah, it was amazing. But there was one lady who, whenever she sat in that space, she'd get such mad visuals during meditation. She actually said after a while, she said, "I'm going to have to stop sitting there because she'd have to drive home." So I'd have to make super sure that she was grounded before she drove home. Um, so I know for a fact, because I used to sit in that space when I was doing mantra meditation. So inadvertently, I created a portal, for want of a better words. So is that good or bad? Well, it's both. It's neither, in fact. Um, but if you do that, if you if you are using meditation or if you're being creative, it's going to create an energy which then makes it easier for you to tap back into that liminal space. Yeah. This is when habits are actually quite a good thing. Yeah. Good habits are a good thing. because it creates an energetic ripple, yeah, which is very cool. Um, so coming back to the idea of the emperor, yeah, in this whole idea of walking the liminal spaces, yeah. So there's this, so the silence, the stillness, that inner power definitely comes, especially from a place of meditation or from a place of ritual, definitely comes from that. And when you're doing those things regularly, that builds a structure of what's the word I'm looking for? Magical practice, magical workings. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Um, you could even say that what it then does when you access this liminal space, it's definitely a space where you get, I won't say you get information, but whether it's spirit or whether it's your higher self part of you that's bigger and sees everything, you will get messages. That I promise you. How those messages come will depend on how your soul blueprint is formed. Yeah. But essentially, so for me, um, because I have, uh, what would I say? Because I have for want of a better word, a galvanized throat chakra. It's the only way I can describe it without going into soul speak. Um, I'm I hear spirit more than anything else. I don't see spirit. I do smell spirit because I have the nose for it. I have quite a big nose. So I smell things that no one else can smell. That is spirit for me, yeah. But I hear them, yeah. Ian sees them like they're walking around. It's like I want to do that, but maybe I wouldn't. But I do hear them, and on many occasions, from that liminal space, is shouting in my ear, or huffing in my ear, or whatever it is that they're doing in my ear. It's usually the left ear. It's like, oh my god, stop shouting at me. But I can tell you, if you don't want that, then that's fine. You can ask them not to do that. But I think it's quite funny when they do that. Um, so there's definitely a building of your inner power, your inner strength through doing this. Through, let's cross the veil, shall we? Let's see what's over there. Just make sure you take a guide because you don't want to bump into the fae. Yeah. Um, and like I say, definitely think there's a security, there's a stability when you're doing this in a responsible way. Yeah. Because it's reminiscent of where we came from. This changing, changeable, always moving kind of world that is the liminal space. It's like the void. It is the void, if you like. It's just like it's like the void's projecting onto something, and you're looking at the projection, not the actual projector. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, yeah, and this idea of the it builds that confidence. There you go. Um, and what you then realise is you have the skills. You have the skills to walk the liminal space. With a guide. Guide's always good. Yeah, but you can do that. You can do it. And you know, and there'll come a point where you're competent and skilled at doing that. Yeah. And that that when you do it, with your guide by your side, or guides, plural, that, yeah, it's good. Now, another example I have of that is very, very strange, and I haven't experienced this since actually. It was very strange. The beginning of the year, um, I was quite unwell, and I would have a lot of problems sleeping. So I was doing all these things like these kind of meditations and stuff before I went to sleep to try and help me to sleep. So I'd be kind of semi awake, yeah. And this one time, it's like my head was full of voices, yeah. I'm like, what is this? Because I could not shut it up, yeah. So I did. I asked, what is this? And I was given instructions. So the voices I was hearing were the voices of people who had passed. Now, this was the beginning of the year. I don't know if there was an increase in um, deaths at the beginning of the year, about February time, I think it was. Um, but I was told that I'm going to help guide them either to the other side, or if they weren't ready to do that, if they hadn't done enough work yet, then they would go back and they would go round again. Yeah. What was really interesting about that, and I think it happened 2 or 3 nights in a row, and then it stopped, um, was I had to take control of all these scared, they were scared basically. These souls were scared because they were in the liminal space. They were in the liminal space and they were scared. So I had to kind of, you know, put them at ease and then, either guide them to, you know, there you go, there's the door, there's the shining door there. Or, if you're not quite ready for that yet, if you're not ready to pass to the other side, then you can go this way where you'll just get on the wheel again, go round again. And what was really mad is that when I asked them to just be quiet a minute, the crazy noise of voices in my head stopped. Now that was bonkers, and like I say, it lasted, I think it was 2 or 3 nights in a row, and very interesting experience, and basically what I was doing, what I realized after this is that I was acting as a psychopomp. That's what a psychopomp does. It stands there, like, puts everyone at ease and then, guides them one door or the other. I'm like, "Flipping heck." But that was the liminal space. Again, it was a liminal space. So, that was quite an interesting experience. And why was I talking about that? Yes, the competence. I clearly was given that responsibility because it was recognized by the deities, guides that I'd worked with, that I could do that. It wasn't a problem. Amazing. That, and, kind of humbling really to be given that responsibility. Um, a bit like a metaphysical, I think they call them death doulas, but this was on a metaphysical level, yeah, which was quite phenomenal. Anyway, I can't believe it, the show's nearly done. Oh my god, nearly at the top of the hour here. So I was going to pull some cards. I just want to pull one animal oracle. This is the Spirit of the Animals oracle. Again, big cards. There's something about big cards that I seem to like. So I'm just going to pull one card. I want one card to stick out above all the others. See that one? Oh. I'm also going to pull an elemental because we've been talking about elementals. So one card that sticks out above all the others, please. That's that one. Richness, marine life, interesting. And the white stag. Wow. Okay, folks. So we have the white stag. And I'll read that out. And we have marine life. So that's the ocean. Big old liminal space there, I would suggest. Because there's parts of the ocean that no one knows anything about. I'd say that's a pretty good liminal space, wouldn't you? Okay, so we've got the white stag, which is the protector. And it says, "You are an old soul. Your best friend is nature. Use your intuition to take you where you want to go. Awaken to the powerful force within you. You are meant to create blessings with your magic in the liminal space." Thank you very much. And then we have marine life. So for you, your liminal space might be to do with, I can't get that to focus. Urgh, you get the idea. Um, so for you, your liminal space might be the ocean. You know, who knows? But yeah, we have a couple of really beautiful cards there to kind of end that with. So I'm just going to open it up to a little bit of time that we got left after I waffled there. Yeah, to anyone who has anything they want to share about what I've just been banging on about for the past hour.
Yeah, I think you've covered all the bases there. I'm thinking as well that that dream state that you have, that either when you're just about to fall asleep or when you're just about to wake up and you're in that liminal state of awake and asleep at the same time.
Yep, absolutely.
That's one of my favourite states of being. Especially the waking up one, where you've got threads of memories of where you've been during your sleep that will slither away, but you hang on to them. But the more you hang on to them, the more they will slither away.
Yeah.
You try and find that balance of not trying too hard, but just sort of bobbing along in the liminal space that you're in without trying too hard. And I enjoy that experience. I do enjoy.
Yeah, it's a really good time to kind of do things like clear your aura out, set intentions, all that stuff. It's really good for that particular time. It's very magical, very powerful.
Yeah, and I think as well when you're falling asleep, that's my reflection state. Where when you were saying earlier on about when you do the same meditation at the same time in the same place.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I do when I go to sleep, because obviously I'm going to sleep in the same place. I'm facing the same way.
Yeah.
I've got my head facing south and my feet facing north. So, and then when I close my eyes and then I reflect on the day, or if I'm watching, like at the minute, I'm watching Lower Decks.
What's that?
As my bed. It's the cartoon. It's a Star Trek cartoon.
Lower Decks.
If you've never seen it, you've got
never
to
seen it. Oh wow!
I recommend that you go get it.
Okay.
Lower Decks. It's got all the Star Trek stuff that you'd expect in there, but it's based around the crew who live and evolve around the Lower Decks.
Okay, yeah. It's like the in between tarot, yeah, or Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, yeah.
And it is quite well done, to be fair, as cartoons go. It's great going to sleep TV. Because it's humorous, it's funny, and it's relatable, and I lay there sometimes and watch it, and I can feel myself drifting off. And then, as I'm doing that, I then start reflecting as that drift kicks in, that liminal space starts to creep in.
Yeah.
I then reflect on the day. And before I know it, I'm fast asleep and waking up again in the morning to repeat the cycle. But it is a good way of practicing. Like what you were saying earlier, doing the same thing in the same space at the same time.
Absolutely.
And then obviously there are some nights I don't even bother turning it on or anything, and then I just go to sleep because I'm too tired to watch anything. But I repeat that process. Then I'll think about the day, what I've done, when I got up this morning, all the things that I've achieved, not achieved, done, not done, spoke to, not spoke to, and so on, right through the day. And before I get to getting ready for bed, I've already fallen asleep.
I did forget to mention, actually, gods that walk the liminal space. So you've got Arwen, who is the king of the Fae, lord of the underworld. He's quite imposing, but there's something about his energy which is actually
I don't know whether that or you, but your twang in your voice, I don't know whether you
was I twanging? Yeah, I was talking about Arwen.
Again, Jackie.
Yeah, the same was happening for me. Angie was
was I?
Twanging, yeah.
I was being widow twangy. It's nearly panto season. Yeah, I was talking about Arwen. The he's a Welsh god of the. Am I going again?
I don't know whether it's your Wi-Fi or your connection or too much data. I don't know.
Let me just put my mobile data on, see if that helps.
That's better.
Is that better? That's mobile data.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Arwen is the king of the Fae, lord of the underworld, and he is again very comfortable in that liminal space. And although he's quite imposing, there's something about his energy which is very much about guiding. He's an amazing guide. You got Odin as well, who's also a psychopomp. Manannon as well is really interesting to work with. Especially if you live near like marshes, that kind of air, that kind of watery energy. And Lou as well. Although not a psychopomp, amazing guide. Yeah. So yeah, I forgot to mention the gods, but yeah, they're just as important. Yeah. So I have now mentioned them.
Now you won't have angered them.
What's that?
Don't anger the gods.
Yeah, they. I don't think they've ever got angry with me. They might have. No, they've never got angry with me. Not that I know of, anyway. So yeah, what do we think, peeps?
About really bit.
Yeah.
Really interesting, Angie. Sorry, I you there.
Go on.
Really. Oh, cheers. Really, really interesting. I think I hit that space more than I realised.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what to call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a tongue twister, though.
Liminal.
Liminal space. Liminal space.
It's as though you're not saying it right, even though you know that you are pronouncing it right. It's still like you're tongue twisting yourself, but you're not.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that awareness, that awareness of, well, awareness is everything, isn't it? And if you intend for that as well, if you intend to walk those spaces that are liminal, then that's even more powerful, Definitely.
I'm not sure whether it's classed as a liminal experience, but one of my most profound experiences that I had was when I was about 17, 18, and I was in the pub during the middle of winter. And obviously inside the pub, the beer were flowing, the fires roaring, we're playing pool, and then obviously it's time to go home. When we walked in the pub, there was not a speck of snow anywhere. There was a chill in the air, but no snow. Everything was dry. By the time we'd finished in the pub and we'd come out at whatever time it was, 11:30, midnight, and setting off back home, there was a thick blanket of snow everywhere, and there was snowflakes falling. So, and obviously inebriated. So when you walk out of a hot or a warm pub into a dramatically cold environment, however, there was a deadness of sound as well, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I can't put it into words, but it was like this really, really liminal sort of crossover from the pub to the outside, and it was like, whoa, the snowflakes were falling slowly. It wasn't windy or anything, so they were just gently falling in. There was a thick blanket of snow everywhere. The noise was deadened because of it.
Yeah.
So there was this sort of dullness to the sound of the air, and it was just absolutely, never forget it, magical.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I love winter, because it especially snow, especially when it's that kind of experience, that it is liminal, absolutely. Because it changes the environment completely. Even Dartford looks pretty, when it snowed. Just don't eat the yellow snow.
It was like the pub was like a womb. It was like we'd gone in there, it was all nice and clean and no snow everywhere, and then we did what we did inside the pub, and then we came out, and it was like being born into this environment, this snowbound snow globe, for want of a better phrase. Image and sensory sort of like bombardment or lack of. It was just incredible.
Wow, very cool. And I love that deadening of sound that you get with really thick snow. It is pure magic, pure magic.
And on that note, do you want to stop the recording?
Yeah, that's cool.
Recording stop.